What's up? Can you hear me?
Nope, can't hear you at all.
Well, well, okay.
No,
Is this family
you're good.
friendly? Do I have to hold back my the slander?
I don't care, dude. Say whatever you want. We're not. I'm not reusing this.
Oh,
Well, I
all right
haven't
then.
decided. I haven't decided yet. I don't know. Say whatever you want. This will be.
All right.
We'll make this R rated.
Sure, sure. We're free to say whatever we want.
This is a Saturday. This is supposed to be an off day for me. It's only because you and Itamar have such weird schedules.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I could have done this like this time any day of the week, but like I think Itamar has some stuff like tomorrow and the days after, so we just decided to do it now.
Yeah, it makes sense. But I mean, also I'm like super upset that I still can't use my like regular desktop setup because whenever I hear myself on my AirPods, I hate it. But it's the only microphone that I have that'll sync to my iPhone, and I'm just like, all right, well, I guess this is what I'm rolling with. So
Yeah, I'm kind of in a makeshift of my PC setup and my phone too. Whatever.
also
Wait, that's your
we were supposed to have like 5 minutes to just chill and like set the room up, and
yeah, and people are already
everybody got
here.
notified. It's just
Yeah.
everybody's already here. It's super awkward all of a sudden. What's up,
What's up,
Rylan? What's up,
everyone?
Jeremy? What's up, Jose? Jonathan, Ron. Right, dude. Corey. That's what I'm saying. I want the check mark in here. I've got some good friends who have been on Greenroom, or I guess Locker Room since the early days, who have picked up the check mark on here, but like aren't check marked elsewhere. So I need to like DM like the guys at the top of Locker Room / Green Room and be like, yo, I was one of y'all's like early innovators. Hook me up with a check mark, please. Also, where is Itamar says he's
Itamar,
in
yeah.
here. Yeah, let me see. Others in the room. How do I get to others in the
His
room?
name is really Itamar as well. It's like the same as his Twitter handle.
Dude, come on, let me see the other people in here. Dude, well none of these is him. So
Yeah. It only shows like 11 people to me. Is it the same for you?
yeah, it says it, but it says like others in the room. I mean, I guess that's everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been weird since the switch to Green Room. It's been a little buggy. So I mean, if it
Oh, it's the same people behind it?
yes.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
I mean, Spotify bought it, so I mean now it's all
Yeah.
rebranded and they've got a lot more power behind them. Better servers, I think technically. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. He's saying he's in here, and I don't believe him. Save draft.
Yeah, I told them on the group chat.
Wrong room, fam. I
Yeah,
don't see him in
he's
here.
here
So.
now. Yeah.
Oh, there he
No,
is. Well, now
he's
I can
there
see
now.
him.
He's there now. Yeah.
Yeah, I got him. I invited him. He should see it. Dude, I
Yeah,
just invited him manually. Like, I don't know what he's invite. Get up here.
I think when he switches apps, he doesn't see the invite or something. Cause
Dude, he's in here twice. Are you seeing that? Is that just
wait,
me?
maybe
Which
there's an imposter or something.
which one's the real one?
Yeah,
I'm scared.
it's both the real one because I added them before this, so it's both the real one. I don't know.
All right, well, I've invited both up to the stage. We're gonna get trolled by one of them. I guarantee it.
It will be worth it for the laughs.
All right, y'all. Y'all need to start chiming in the chat. Who is Mobley Mob and who is Green Gang and who is hanging out by their lonesome on the Sug Squad?
Yeah, Sex Island. I mean, I think Stanford KP got like a couple more guys in his island.
Dude, at this point, the Suggs Island, like Sug Squad, is like a cult. Like, I mean, he's over there like trying to convert individuals. He's like, no, this is the way. At least Mobley and Green, for the most part, everybody's in agreement. Like, both would be a solid pick. I mean, they're advocating for their guy, but they're both, right there at the top as far as, being marginally better than the other, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the funny thing is uh, like like KP doesn't even want to draft Suggs. He's just defending Suggs because no one else does.
To be fair,
He
again,
said it yesterday or something.
no, see, and to be fair, I was higher on Suggs originally, and a big part of that is, and this is my biggest dilemma, right? Is I know you're not supposed to draft for fit, draft the best talent available, and I think that's clear cut. Like it's become like Mobley and Green are the two clear cut talents
it's
after
the mantra.
So you follow that belief system, but I do think you can at least entertain that idea a little bit if you're trying to look at these margins where if you view Mobley and Green so close to each other, right, where the margin is like razor thin, if you're in that boat where you go back and forth, where you vacillate back and forth consistently, then I think it's okay to start looking at other variables to consider. And one of those for me is I do not like the idea of a KPJ Jalen Green backcourt as the future for the Rockets, because I feel like that is a backcourt that is a nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah. He said if you could invite him again.
Okay, which one am I inviting? Did he specify? I'm just going to invite both again. Here we go.
Just do both again.
I've invited both, so we will see.
Okay.
Maybe. Oh, you know what? He's probably on an Android, and it's super buggy on Android. So.
Oh, both of them are in now.
Oh, we got.
They're both in. Let's go.
Watch, it's gonna echo.
Oh.
I'm scared.
Why am I here twice?
All right, hang on. I'm gonna kick the other one off, and I'm gonna see what happens. Remove. Oh, it kicks them both out. What is happening?
Oh my god.
All right, there we go.
There's just one now?
There's just one now. No more clones.
I see two, but whatever. Okay.
All right, well, we only see one, and that's what matters.
You can never have too much, Itamar.
I could hear you. After you sent the link, I was in, I could hear you, but I guess I couldn't ask to speak or something. I don't know.
All right. Well, now that we've got everybody here, we're gonna take speak requests and all this. We're gonna get everybody up here, and you'll be able to voice your opinion. Whether you're, spreading the propaganda of the Mobley mob or the Green Gang, or if you're, one of the 7 people on Suggs Island, you can do that too. But we're gonna kind of open things up. It's gonna be super informal. It's not an actual show. Because these two bullied me into saying it can't be a show, so that's cool. No, but they were like, we don't want to hear about Built Bar today. So anyways, let's start, and I'm gonna let you start, Prodigy, because you are firmly Green Gang, and I believe Itamar is still on the Mobley side, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna let Prodigy start because there's only one of him, and I don't want your clone to accidentally take over in 5 minutes. So, Prodigy, kick us off with your leading argument for Green.
I mean, it's to me, they're both really close, and I wouldn't mind getting either of them, so I won't be pissed if we get Mobley, but to me, it's mainly this. To me, they're both equal in potential and all the prospect stuff, To me, ultimately the difference comes down to who do I believe will reach his ceiling more, and if he does, who is easier to build around. To me, it's the scoring shooting guard has been done over and over and over again, and we know how it works. You get some good defenders around him. If he isn't a good playmaker, you got a playmaker, you got a pick and roll center, and you're set. So it's it's been done before. So there's a model to follow. And the other thing is Mobley is such a one of a kind prospect. The best comp you can come up with is Anthony Davis, and you don't quite have any other player like Anthony Davis in the league that can do what he does. So, it's not a recipe you can follow. And to me, that's really scary. The other thing is, a guard doesn't really have to go through that much change physically, and it scares me that Mobley is going to have to put on some weight. And we saw what happened to Capella when he put on some weight and eventually lost a lot of his mobility on the perimeter. And if you take away, imagine that the same happens to imagine the same happens to Mobley, where he puts on some weight, he loses a bit of mobility, all of a sudden he's, I don't know, like, can he still do the like, one of the main things about him is the handle and the playmaking. Like, if he loses mobility, the charm about him is all gone, basically. So, like, he's basically Clint Capella with a better jump shot and some better touch around the rim. With Green, it's like, okay, he can come into the league, he can be ineffective and turn into Andrew Wiggins or whatever, but at least you can see you can see the progression, and you can see, okay, this is what he can become, and this is how you build around it. And to me, it's less of a risk to take Green than it is to take Mobley based on that, because I consider them to be very close, like, skill-wise. So ultimately, what edges it to Green for me, it is, this has been done before. You can recreate it. We've done it with Harden, even though Harden's a different prospect. So yeah, it's basically that. It's two really close prospects where I wouldn't be mad at either of them, but while nitpicking, like you said before, I'd go with Green because it's something that's been done before, and you can follow a path.
There's an existing model
exactly.
there.
Thank you for helping me out.
Sure. Okay. All right. And this is the important part. Before I throw it to Itamar so that he can present his argument, and then I'm going to jump in third. But, like, there's great arguments on both sides for both prospects. Like, and there's even some legitimate arguments for Suggs. Maybe not at like 2 overall, unfortunately, because I think, again, like, the other two have kind of separated themselves from him. But there's great arguments all around for these guys. And that's the whole part of this, is, having these discussions and really trying to analyze it from every single angle. So, Itamar, go ahead and lead us off with your thoughts on Mobley and any counterpoints that you have to Prodigy. And then I'll take it from there.
Yeah, I just want to say that, like, I've thought over this in my mind for, like, ever since we finished second in the lottery. And at the end, like, my takeaway, which, listen to smart people, and most smart draft people have Mobley in a different tier than Jalen Green. That's obviously not my entire argument, but that's kinda, that helps me decide. But the argument for Mobley is that, yes, there haven't been any other Evan Mobleys, but it's not like he does something we've never seen before. He just does a lot of things that we've seen from other players. For instance, if you just saw someone with his perimeter skill set, I mean, that exists. So with his defensive perimeter skill set, that exists. There are centers who can defend the perimeter and switch. You got Bam Adebayo who can do that. And maybe none of them are 7 feet, but we know that's something that works. And his rim protection, when you have Rudy Gobert, he cannot switch out to the perimeter, but we know the rim protection is very effective. On offense, you got Christian Wood, and both are extremely similar skill set wise offensively. And Mobley just has much more paths to succeed, because I can see him becoming an incredible paint protector, and maybe everything else fails, and it's just like Rudy Gobert, who's 7 feet and it has better touch, and that's like a top 15 player. If nothing else works, maybe it's just an elite switch defender. Maybe it's just his passing turns out. Maybe his shooting turns out. Like, he has so many things that he's shown potential at some levels at least. I believe he's gonna work out to be a great player no matter what. I will say that I have become a little wary of him in the past, like, today, basically, because I saw, like, the reports that maybe that before he joined USC, because his big brother left his team, then he was less, like, active in the game, and he seemed like he didn't want to play basketball as much. And if that's actually true, it's a big red flag. But that's what the interviews are for, and the Rockets can figure it out whether he loves the game of basketball or not, because we know Green does. But if he does, then I think he's the clear pick to me.
yeah, there's definitely something to be said for those intangible aspects that you need to kind of really dig deeper for and figure out when it comes to some of these prospects. And, for lack of better terminology for it, right? It's like that it factor, right? That killer mentality when you're on the court, final seconds of a game, you're the guy who's ready to take the clutch shot to rise to the occasion, whatever that you love to hoop mentality. And we've seen players who have flopped because they haven't, given it their all, or because they haven't been super fully invested in their careers. They haven't gone, 100%, to the wall as far as their development and progression goes. And that'll maybe be something to be aware of moving forward. But I do want to highlight something that I think is kind of prevalent right now. And I could be wrong on this. Maybe I'm like, I don't think I'm projecting, but I think there's like this feeling, and whether or not you've like internalized it and you realize that this is how you feel, maybe this will help. I think a lot of Rockets fans are just subconsciously just begging to have that guy back that they think can be the number one guy moving forward. Like the franchise guy, the number one option, the closer, whatever you want to call it, the alpha level scorer. And that's clearly Jalen Green. Like Evan Mobley is probably not that guy. He's going to have an incredible, NBA career. The floor is incredibly high on him. As you already illustrated, Evan Mobley does a variety of things on the court at an exceptional level already, and he's only going to get better at the NBA level. And again, the comps that you throw out talking about Evan Mobley, right? A Chris Bosh, Anthony Davis-esque hybrid who is, going to be potentially like the future of the big man in the NBA because he can switch out onto the perimeter and guard smaller players. He's got the rim protection, offensively very well polished across his entire game. Needs to pick up the outside shooting just a little bit, but the form looks good. The fundamentals are very solid. But for a lot of Rockets fans, I think that's why Green has been kind of the guy that they're looking at because they view him as like the next, I guess, cornerstone moving forward. And some of my argument for Mobley, stems from, I don't know if you necessarily need this pick to be that guy, quote unquote, moving forward, because the Rockets have so many different pathways and avenues to potentially secure that guy within the next reasonably 2 to 3 seasons, right? And whether that be they hit on a guy in the draft, in one of these upcoming drafts, who is, the number one option, the new cornerstone franchise guy, whatever. Maybe that's the option. Maybe they trade for him, right? They've got so many picks, so much liquid draft capital with all the Brooklyn Nets picks and the plethora of draft picks that they've kind of restocked, over the last 12 months or so, that they could make a play for an established guy, right? So obviously kind of like there's rumblings, right, with Luka in Dallas. I highly doubt Luka Doncic is ever a Houston Rocket. That's a pipe dream. But we have seen time and time again how quickly the NBA landscape shifts. And at the moment there's a guy who is unhappy, disgruntled, whatever, wants out, Rafael Stone is going to be poised and in a position to make a play that, hey, the only other general manager that can beat an offer from Rafael Stone right now is Sam Presti with the Thunder. So, and then, maybe they get outbid for the next upset star, whatever. That's a possibility, but at least there's other avenues to go. And I think that Evan Mobley overall is a rarer talent for what he gives you at that 5 spot, especially with where the NBA game is trending and what you would ideally want a future 5 to look like on a championship caliber team.
Yeah, I mean, you just like, I think it comes down to simply who do you think is the better prospect, and you take the better prospect and just worry about the other things later. I mean, you're also going to have a top lottery pick next year unless you do something stupid and try to win now for some reason. Really, Green looks more like a surefire star because, well, his highlights are insane. Like, he's looking like Michael Jordan with his vertical explosion, with his shooting. Like, it's amazing to watch, and his passing, like, he's got some nice assists as well. I do think, like, I mean, hard for me to see him turning out to be someone much better than current day Bradley Beal. And what current day Bradley Beal is, well, he just almost led the league in scoring. Like, it came down to the final game of the season. I think he averaged 32 points. Kerry averaged 32.2, whatever. He's someone like last year he missed the playoff and he wasn't close. This year with Westbrook was the higher impact player, I'd say, because if you just score and you're okay at playmaking wise, your defense is not great, you just score, then it's a great thing for championship level teams that if you play for with an initiator, then well you can really contribute. But if you just the only really good scorer on the team, just not gonna lift them very far. And I think some people really view Jalen Green as that initiator type as that floor raiser like James Harden was, and he's not that. But I really can say enough good things about Jalen Green because, like, I don't remember a prospect recently that I was so sure about him being one of the five best scorers in the league. He's just so versatile scoring wise, and he's gonna be great.
So, like, you made the Bradley Beal comparison, and that's a really nice comparison, but imagine what Bradley Beal would be doing if he was, like, 3 inches taller. Like, the thing is, we know Bradley
Is
Beal.
Jalen 3 inches taller?
Yeah, I think he's 6'6", right?
He's listed at 6'6", and I mean he's young, so maybe he grows another inch or something. So
yeah, so he's 6'6". You look at Bradley Beal, he's amazing scorer. I'm looking at his stats right now. He wasn't that efficient this season, like from 3 at least, but like the tools are there for him to be a great defender too. And another point I wanted to bring up is it's like the chicken and the egg. What's most important? What do you need first? Do you need the initiator first, or do you need the defensive anchor first? Because ultimately, you want your best player, you try for your best player to be someone who can get his own bucket, who'll get a shot out of nowhere. So, imagine this: we're playing a playoff game, and you gotta get a bucket. Are you going to rely on someone you brought, like, from the outside? Like, ultimately, I think most Rockets fans would agree that this is going to be our best player for a while. If Stone really does what I think he's trying to do, which is compete as soon as possible without spending assets, we could be like the 10th worst team in the league next year. And if we are that, we're not going to get a better chance at getting a player this good for a while. I know we have the picks, but like, you have to force it. Like, Brooklyn needed all of those picks, and they could only get James Harden because he chose Brooklyn. So we have all of the picks, but ultimately the player has to choose the Rockets. Like, if a player is that good, he's not going to be traded. So the only way you can get a player like that is free agency, of which we've talked about, and we're not that big of a market. Or you can trade for one, and you will only trade for a player that good if he requests a trade and you're specifically on the list of teams he wants to go to. So, like, this is only a discussion. I wanted to say this again so people don't think I'm like, oh, you're talking about fit, and fit doesn't really matter. Just go for the best guy. Remember that I'm saying this from the standpoint that, to me, they're equally as good as one another. So fit does matter because they're tied. So when they're tied, you gotta nitpick, like I'm doing right now, what you'd want to get first. And to me, the first thing you want to get is the scorer as well. Like, would you rather, like, on the Lakers last year, would you rather have, who do you think they should get first, AD or LeBron? You should go for the scoring option first, LeBron. That's like
LeBron is also like the greatest playmaker in NBA history.
I mean, yes, yeah. Like, I don't know who's going to win this year, but let me see if I can find a comparison this year. And there's no teams.
It's a harder comparison because the closest you can get, I think, like realistically, is looking at the Utah Jazz. Do you want Donovan Mitchell or do you want Rudy Gobert? Unfortunately, Rudy Gobert is quite a bit more one-dimensional than Evan Mobley projects to be, and I think that's where you get into. Edomar brought up such a beautiful point, talking about all the different comps. You know, Rudy Gobert's rim protection, but the switchability of Bam Adebayo on the perimeter, the offensive repertoire of Christian Wood, the playmaking ability that is slightly underrated that I don't think is getting enough attention. You know, he has such a well-rounded game, in all facets, that I don't think he's ever going to be, exposed the way that Rudy Gobert was. I think he's going to thrive potentially the way that Bam Adebayo has, and picturing him in that role alongside Christian Wood, because I do think that they can share the floor together. And then having Kevin Porter Jr. be the conductor of the offense, right? Keeping the ball in his hands. I think KPJ's progression does play a bit of a part in this, because if the Rockets front office is bought into what they think he can become, right? Whatever that ceiling may be, if they are bought into what he might actually become down the line, then you're already kind of set with a potential lead guard, potentially like alpha scorer, elite playmaker type presence. I've been drawing comparisons to the current version Atlanta Hawks between Trey, John Collins, and Clint Capella. That would be Kevin Porter Jr., Christian Wood, and Evan Mobley. Again, slight differences in each other's game. Kevin Porter Jr. needs to round out his shooting and become more consistent, behind the arc to really unlock the rest of his game and make life easier for himself and for his teammates. But after putting in an offseason work, I think that we've seen there's nothing mechanically wrong with his shot. There's a lot of questions surrounding his confidence at times. He definitely gets down on himself throughout the course of a game if he makes a mistake, a bad turnover, a missed shot, whatever. And that's a growth and maturity thing that's going to get better as he gets older and as he spends more time with his coaching staff and really keeps his confidence up. But I want to pull up really quick. Hang on, I lost him. Where'd he go? There he is. All right, here we go. We got our first request. Get up here. There we go. We are bringing up Buttermilk Jesus.
How are you doing, guys?
What's up, man?
What's up?
Before you drop in these thoughts, what's up with Buttermilk Jesus? Please explain.
I have a rapper known as JPEG Mafia. He's my favorite artist, and I just stole his what's it called? One of his names. I don't know what his nicknames. I just took it.
All right, bet. Okay. All right. So what you got for us?
I'm really into the draft. I don't know if Edamar recognizes me or not, but I spend way too much time analyzing the draft. Recently I've been doing mock drafts as the Rockets, just because you guys are arguably the most interesting draft night team, in my opinion, with 2 picks in the 20s and then the top 2 pick. I'm firmly on Team Mobley. I have Mobley like a half tier ahead. A lot of great points have been said. Jackson, thank you for finally bringing up Kevin Porter Jr., because that's something that I think has to be brought up when talking about the Rockets' future timeline as far as winning the next championship. Because I think Kevin Porter Jr. is definitely part of the young core. He's your guys' best offensive creator at 21. This is a hot take, a really hot take, but I think Kevin Porter Jr. is arguably a better creator. You can project me a better creator than Jalen Green is. I would argue that Anthony Edwards is a better prospect than Jalen Green. So as far as him being super rare, in the last 2 drafts, we just had Kevin Porter Jr. and Anthony Edwards, 2 guys that I don't know, there hasn't been an Evan Mobley in the last 2 drafts is my point. He's arguably the best defensive prospect since Anthony Davis. I would throw Jaren Jackson in there, but I love Jaren Jackson. Evan Mobley is the guy that personifies so much of what my philosophy loves. He's a guy that combines skill and height and size, along with giving you two-way, legit all-NBA two-way impact on both sides of the floor. That's something Jalen Green can't say. And more than anything, he's super scalable. Pairing him up with Christian Wood would fit. Pairing him up with Kevin Porter Jr. would fit. Jalen Green has a certain amount of overlap with Kevin Porter Jr. that if all things were equal anyways, which I as far as talent, I think Mobley is a slightly better player. If all things were equal, even just going off the fit argument, I think Mobley just a clearer fit. There's some level of overlap between him and Kevin Porter Jr. Green and Kevin Porter Jr. that would make me slightly uncomfortable, because you're not going to get the best out of both. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'm open to discussing. So
No,
I mean, wasn't
I'm just going to throw it out there because I mentioned
yeah.
it earlier, and I just want to say because again, everybody when we talk about these prospects and everything, I just want to really hammer in the fact that you have to consider the defensive side of the basketball. Everybody wants to focus on offense, and I get it. Jalen Green is an absolute bucket. He is going to be a bona fide pure scorer at the NBA level, but I mentioned it super early on in this room. I do not like the idea of a Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green backcourt in the future, or just even in general, like having that defensive anchor in Evan Mobley and everything else that he provides, just pound for pound. I think it's a more exciting fit for the Rockets, and I agree. That I think it's a slightly more seamless fit to just slot Evan Mobley in right there next to Christian Wood, who we learned that the Rockets now view Christian Wood as a multi-positional player, right? I think they went into last season thinking Christian Wood was the 5 of the future. And I think as the season progressed, we learned that Steven Silas and Rafael Stone now view Christian Wood as a guy who is interchangeable at the 4 or 5 spot and can play both. So that's just my 2 cents.
And what's great is that Mobley can also interchange at the 4 and
exactly.
the 5.
Yes.
Like the great thing with there is that you have time to like develop him into his frame to the point where he can eventually play the 5. I think his very best play will be at the 5. I think he's a unicorn. Just also batting on Prodigy's point about you've never seen a player like Mobley before, so therefore building around him is harder. I'd argue that's like a good thing for him because you want unique talents at the very, very top of the draft. You want guys that you can't replicate. Mobley is a guy that's really hard to define with any one-to-one comp, honestly. I think Anthony Davis is missing out on a bit of his playmaking equity. Bam Adebayo is missing on just a bit of the face-up game that I think Evan Mobley probably be better at. But there's so many roles that he fits in. I love Mobley. I cannot wait till KPJ and Mobley play together because I think that's a perennial playoff core, just off the bat. And at that point, you're just looking for maybe another wing and you're set. But yeah.
One other thing I wanted to say is I do not guarantee whatsoever that I'm not going to leave this green room thinking Mobley is the better choice. It's totally possible that 10 minutes from now I'm telling you Mobley is the better prospect because you've convinced me. It's that. The thing is
we love to hear it.
I'm not 100%. It's not like I'm not going to change until the draft. The thing is, I try to convince, when I'm watching Evan Mobley, I'm trying to convince myself this is the best guy because most of the people say this is the best guy. But I watch him play. He's a really good defender, but I keep thinking there's so much that can go wrong. I keep thinking we cannot let this go wrong. And this is such a unique player that so much can go wrong. We can I know Itamar hates me when I bring this up, but it's a unicorn. Unicorn usually have really bad problems with injuries. He has to put on weight. That's another thing that can get out of control or that he cannot refine the best way. He can not develop a proper, reliable 3-point shot, which is another problem. I just feel like I'm hoping for so much to go right, and so much can go wrong from my point of view that I'm man, I really, really, really want to switch to this guy because I can't be the only one. And my mind keeps bombarding me with stuff that can go wrong, and I'm so afraid of this going wrong because we don't have many shots like this at the end of the day.
I'd argue he's hard to be a bust just because the level of feel that he has is so high that I find it very hard for him not to be at least a net positive player. A low end starter would be the most bottom end outcome I can think of with him. And the thing is, you said, the things that concern you are the weight and the shot getting together. Those are two things that NBA front offices have had great success in developing in the last 10 years. I think those are questions that are far less concerning now more than ever. Just because he's gonna be put in the weight room with world class strength and conditioning team. He's gonna put in a bunch of work on the shot just because that's something, especially the Houston Rockets, are gonna value very much. So
the shot doesn't really worry me as much. That weight thing, it said front offices have been dealing with that for a while. I just wanted for you to expand on it a little, because other than AD, how many centers have they gotten right that maintain that mobility after they joined the?
I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is hard because he just recently came off an injury this year. But I think and also he's had struggles playing the 5 too. I think Jaren Jackson's had a really interesting developmental story in the last 2 seasons because he has turned out to be much more of an offensive threat versus the defensive anchor than we had anticipated. But I'm trying to come up with a good example of just good weight gain. A guy like Joel Embiid pops up, but I do not see Evan Mobley getting the weight that Joel.
Yeah,
did,
it's really
had,
unique. Like a unicorn actually making it in that sense. It's so weird because Porzingis, we know what Porzingis is nowadays.
Yeah.
Sealwood is still really slim, and I don't think he'll ever be a lot buffer than that. Then how many unicorns do you have still besides those? There's not many, and it's been a thing for years, but how many times has it gone right is the ultimate question, and I don't think it has gone right a ton, to be honest.
Giannis.
Giannis, yeah, great one.
Giannis
That's actually a great one. Yeah. I think
I don't
players are players you want to bet on more than anything, though. Even if injury is a risk, in the case of this was a conversation with Zion before the draft. I just don't think you should let that concern really scare you all that much over what is a pretty bona fide all-star talent at the very least for the most part. So yeah.
I would just a disclaimer. I'm going to get flamed for this. I would have went Morant over Zion. I know nobody agrees with me. I stick by this. I would have gone Morant over Zion.
That's spicy.
That's hot.
Yeah.
Also, hey, my man, I'm gonna pull you down just to get somebody else up on stage. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you guys.
All right. Thanks for jumping up. Okay. Go.
I just want your Twitter handle isn't Dominic Jesus, isn't? You just said we've been interacting on Twitter, and I'm trying to figure out who you are. And I don't know.
I'm at Cozy Lito. I think my profile is linked to my my account.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. I don't have much to add because you've been making the right points and all of that. Just I just want to say again that every time, who fits better with KPJ? Who's that? Take the best prospect, and I think the best prospect here is Evan Mobley, just because of his versatility, how great he is defensively, and it's hard to see him not turning into a multifaceted NBA star for me, because being a star isn't just scoring.
I also want to just push back on one thing before I leave, on the idea that Jalen Green is a surefire All NBA creator. Comparing him to James Harden is a struggle for me as far as team constructs that have had success before, because James Harden obviously and along with Chris Paul, they were as close to beating the juggernaut Warriors as any team, right? As everybody here knows. And that's the level of creator you have to get. Those are 2 all-time Hall of Famer creators that you have to get into the system in that kind of setup to get to that point. My thing is I don't even know if Jalen Green ever reaches that level.
I don't think anybody actually compared him to Harden as far as his level of creation. In fact, a couple of us were just kind of hesitant on his ability to create for others, at the NBA level. He's shown some flashes here and there, but I don't think any one of us on here actually pushed that narrative. I could be wrong.
But I think I heard Prodigy talk about as far as team construction, as far as a guy that you would see easier to construct around because you've seen the scoring 2 guard before, is my point. I feel he's closer to a guy like Zach LaVine and that's Devin Booker, right? Which isn't terrible, right? Obviously, those guys are great all-star players, but they're guys that require a specific, a very strong surrounding cast in order to get to the point of 60 wins, right? Is my thing. And I think Evan Mobley is a rare talent that can help produce that type of success easier and in a way that's more that leaves more flexibility. He leaves more usage. He leaves a room for another perimeter creator. So that would be my another argument for Mobley. So yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, it's the thing. He's your ideal second up. He's your ideal second star, not
he's the ideal 1B. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just like AD can't be the best guy on the championship team, but he's the best second guy you could.
Yep. Exactly. So yeah, thank you guys.
Appreciate it. All right, we had somebody waiting in the wings. We got Zach. Get up here, Zach. What's up, Zach? Zach's got out. Zach, he's unmuted on my end, so we'll see how this goes.
I know.
All right, I'm gonna bench Zach.
Well, thanks for Zach. Okay.
All right, everybody, round of applause for Zach.
Good job, Zach.
Request again. We'll get you back up here. Let's get Damien up here. What's up, Damien?
Yo, what's up?
Oh God, I
What's
see
good?
the
What's
profile
good?
pic. I'm immediately turned off.
Oh damn.
I'm joking.
Hey, listen, man. Real quick. I don't know if Jackson remembers. In the previous Lockdown Rockets, I spoke about Joel Embiid's built in high school, not in high school, in college, looking similar to Mobley. Remember? I don't know if you remember that.
I do. Yeah.
Okay, so I actually did my research, and then I saw that Joel Embiid was 250 pounds in college, and Evan Mobley is 215. So just seeing that transition from college Embiid to like NBA Embiid, he's now 280, so that's 30 pounds difference that he did in a couple of years. I don't see Mobley getting anywhere near even like 260, 270 in his first couple of years. Like I feel like he would feel uncomfortable in his own skin, just putting on 50 pounds just to like get anywhere near that weight. So we're just gonna stick to like the whole unicorn talk. I feel like he's just gonna be built that way almost his whole career. Does that make sense? What I'm saying right now?
I think looking at Mobley, I think he's got a better starting frame than like looking at Christian Wood as far as the ability to add a bit more mass to his frame. So I think that he can potentially bulk up a bit more successfully than Christian. Because look, Christian Wood's 25 already, right? Like. And he's been in the NBA. Granted, he's only played, under, 180 games or something less than that. I mean, he hasn't played a full 2 seasons yet. So, Christian Wood, but he's bounced around. He's been with teams. He's had access to the physical training staff. He's had access to these weight rooms. If Christian Wood hasn't bulked up considerably by now, it's not going to happen. Like, he might add a little bit more muscle mass this offseason because the Rockets do view him and want him to play that 4 or 5 role kind of interchangeably. And adding a little bit more mass, I think, is going to help him like finish a little better, bang a little bit better with some of the other bigs down low. But ultimately, Christian Wood's level of success stems from the ability that he can outplay other bigs because of his quickness, because of his lateral movement, because of his explosiveness. And he is at risk of losing some of that if he bulks up too much. And he may not even be able to, right? But I think Evan Mobley, you look at him, and I think his frame is a little bit different from Christian Wood. He's still kind of got that wiry frame, but I think he's got a better frame to add a little bit more muscle mass to it. So maybe, consider 230, 245 range-ish, and still hopefully able to bulk up but maintain what makes him unique defensively, the ability to switch and keep that lateral quickness and the same explosiveness that he has right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
250 would be nice.
looking at Wood as an example, Wood does not have the same wingspan as Giannis, and he's not as tall, and he's not a defensive genius, and he gets bullied by bigger centers. And yet he's still I would say he's okay defensively. He was a little more than okay before the injury. He doesn't even know how to really use his length, and he's still okay. Now you take Mobley with just much better at defense, and I'm not that worried about him. Like, maybe won't be someone who you can put on Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic in E1. That's fine. We're rebuilding. He's gonna get there in 4 years. That's the timeline. So just go for the highest ceiling guys as possible, and that's Evan.
I do just want to throw it out there too. The idea, because what Idamar said is totally true, right? Before the injury, because the injury definitely robbed Christian Wood of some of that explosiveness and the athleticism that we kind of saw on display pre-injury. And I think defensively, he was starting to kind of piece it together a little bit. Like, I mean, when he started the season, it was rough. I mean, the defensive awareness was not there. The understanding of how to switch, just all of the defensive principles took a while to hammer in for Christian Wood. And I'm trying to be polite about it.
You gotta add Prodigy again. He accidentally left.
Yeah, I'll where is he? I'll pull him back up. Why do I see 4 Yoda rockets in the chat? What is happening? Anyways,
It's Yoda's special power, I think.
I'm back.
apparently,
Can you hear
you're
me?
back. We got you. Yeah, we got you. So I do want to say that, right, Christian Wood did start to show strides defensively, and where I think Christian Wood definitely really started to look good was as a like weak side shot blocker, being able to time it properly, helping out on drives, and really, protecting the rim to an extent. Like he was kind of occupying space at not a at a slightly above average level. He was starting to really pick up his defensive awareness and know how to occupy space, use his length as a shot blocker. And the idea of a Mobley Wood front court with all that length to clog the paint, to to disrupt passing lanes, and then to both have 2 guys who are excellent like weak side shot blockers to come over as far as help defenders and whatnot on drives and whatnot. I think that's a really exciting thing, even if you don't care about Christian Wood as far as his long-term fit with the Rockets, whether or not he's in the timeline 3, 4, 5 years down the line from now. Just the idea of those 2 guys kind of clogging things up defensively, I like that from just a random note standpoint.
Yeah, while I was gone, I was gone because I was trying to check this out. Like, to me, a perfect like frame for Mobley would be like someone like John Collins, who's made strides defensively this season because he put on some weight and now he can hold back some of those more physical guys. He can't deal with Embiid yet, but like he can make it a little tougher on you, and I think Mobley could easily replicate that. Another thing I wanted to touch on is, as time goes on in this room, I'm leaning Mobley, like slowly but surely, leaning Mobley more and more. Because of what you said, because I think it makes sense, and I think when you're drafting for a team this desperate for talent, you gotta swing for the fences, and ultimately, I think the concerns I have are valid, but you gotta live with them because there's also potential green busts, but like the the ultimate ceiling, I'm starting to think it's higher on Mobley right now, even if he doesn't have that great of an offensive game. I think another thing that we haven't touched on is Silas loved Olynyk because he could run plays through him, and they had Olynyk do a lot of the playmaking. And if you take Olynyk out of that line, I mean, you put Mobley in, and he can do those same things, or at least 90% of them. I think, like, trying to predict who we're going to draft, I think Silas would really like Mobley right now.
I think that's a great point, and that's also something I tweeted about like yesterday. I think they're just both Olynyk and Mobley are really versatile offensively. Obviously, Olynyk is much more polished and smart and better on that end because apparently he's a top 5 center offensively or something. I don't know what exactly we just witnessed in Houston, but he was amazing. But what like we saw Kelly Olynyk run pick and rolls and 4 lobs to KJ Martin, and well, even Mobley can run some pick and rolls. He has had some impressive lob passes. We saw like they can do similar things, and I think Kelly Olynyk could also really help Mobley in the sense that maybe Houston doesn't really have that guy to help Green because Wall maybe is more, it can help KPJ in initiating the offense or in finding open guys. And there isn't really a scorer guy for Green to learn from in Houston. And Olynyk is going to be great help for Mobley. I do want to say, like, I didn't plan, like, this is fun. I didn't just plan for this to be only Jalen Green versus Evan Mobley, but this is great.
And I was having this discussion with somebody earlier today because this is another one of those like kind of it's another fit-based argument. And again, I think when you look at the margins being so close between 2 potential prospects, that it's okay to consider a few of the other arguments. And for me, the first one that I mentioned earlier was like the defensive fit, right? And that's where I keep coming back to thinking about the idea of, what Mobley provides you defensively versus what you would, get or miss out, I guess, on defensively from Jalen Green. And that's also why I was kind of high on Jalen Suggs originally, because of that idea that you pair, again, a backcourt mate with Kevin Porter Jr., who kind of helps, I guess, anchor that to an extent. But reasonably, I wanted to follow up on that. Reasonably, how many net negative to like neutral defenders to plus defenders can you have on like an ideal roster, right? And to me, like, I don't think it's, I mean, maybe I don't think Kevin Porter Jr. is ever going to be like a net positive defender, right? I think neutral and occasionally like a net negative defender are probably where he's at. So then Jalen Green, I mean, he's 6'6", decent wingspan. Like, maybe he figures it out, but I don't think he's ever going to be that plus level defender. And I'd argue that you can't have two guys like that sharing the backcourt together unless you have a really impressive front court that's like anchoring your defense. And so again, I think you have to consider Kevin Porter Jr. moving forward with whatever this pick is, because the margins are so razor thin. Also, I'm going to get somebody else up here really quick. We're going to get
you need to get Don here, man. Don's going to hold it down for Green Gang, man.
Don hasn't requested yet.
Wait, Don,
Damien,
what are you doing, man?
Damien, I appreciate you. I'm going to drop you back down.
Got you guys. Take care, man.
What's up, Mikey? What you got for us?
Hey, what's up? So, I'm a huge Rockets fan, and I just think that we should really take Jalen Green. Like, I think the MJ comparison in terms of athleticism and finishing, I don't think that's like super crazy. Like if you see the tape, like the way this guy is able to just hang in the air, wait for defenders to fall down, like that stuff is super rare. Like Bradley Beal not doing that. Zach LaVine, he's not doing that. Like, that's just super special.
Yeah, I do think that Bill, Mike Prada wrote something really good about it, like a couple months back. He has an ability to jump sideways that is crazy athletic. Just wanted to point it out. But yeah, Green has some really crazy finishes, and with his shooting and space creation, it's why I'm really high on him as a scorer. I just feel like personally I haven't seen enough to say that he's gonna be good, like legitimately good at anything else other than scoring, and that does worry me. But yeah, it's finishes, like the highlights. You look at his highlights and you're like, man, like draft him over Cade because his highlights are the best in the class. That's undisputed.
Yeah, if we let Tillman watch some of these highlights, we're done. It's Green and he's going over Stone, and it's just going to be Green. We got to make sure that Tillman doesn't see any highlights, so it doesn't affect anything. Because if he sees it, we're done. We're done.
And another thing is, like, his 3-point shot is already just like really, really good. Like 36.5% at 19 years old. Like, I just think this guy's really going to be unguardable. Like, once like he gets that up even more, because like, what are you going to do? Like, his first step is amazing, but also how are you going to guard a 3-point shot while guarding his drive? Like, I don't know. I just think this guy is going to be like, I just think like defenses are just going to have to swarm around him, and I think passing is just going to be easy for him because he's just going to draw so much attention.
I don't have any counter arguments to that. I think that the passing, we've seen it a bit on display. Does it translate at the NBA level? Possibly. Again, I think there's just the idea of Green and Kevin Porter Jr. coexisting. I don't think, again, it's not like it's a clunky fit. Kevin Porter Jr. is an extremely willing passer. I just think that Kevin Porter Jr. is not like the lead guard that you would want next to Jalen Green. So it's almost like, to me, it's almost like taking Jalen Green is a way of viewing Kevin Porter Jr. as like, okay, we don't think your ceiling is as high as we once did. And that's okay. Like, that's fine if that's the way the Rockets want to view it. We've only got, a 27-game sample size of Kevin Porter Jr. and his G League tape. With him having the ball in his hands, that is to say, right? Because he's not that floor general, lead guard type player, unfortunately, right? That's a Jalen Suggs type. That's a Chris Paul type, a Kyle Lowry type. That's the type of lead guard that you want next to a Jalen Green. And so I do think that if they go Jalen Green, I think it definitely puts a bit of a question mark on what they view as like Kevin Porter Jr.'s future with the team. Can they coexist? Sure. Is it a perfect fit? No. That's kind of where I come away from. Also, appreciate it, Mikey. I'm gonna get some more people up on the stage. All right.
All right, cool.
Hey, I just want to shout out to Edwin. He's a great guy. Just want to shout out him. Come hop on and come talk, man.
All right. Don, hang on. You're next. We got Braylon. Braylon, what's up, man?
Yeah, it's Braylon. Y'all may not recognize me, but I think Itamar remembers the argument, but the debate we had earlier in the morning about Cade Cunningham and Jalen Green about being the best prospect of the class. I'm young Nova, but I'm also part of Green Gang, whatever you want to call it.
No, don't swap those two. That doesn't.
Yeah, we're not gonna talk about no gangrene in this room, please. Like that's not a thing.
You
It's Green Gang.
That was absolutely disgusting. It's been a long day, but so I look at stuff in a bigger picture and how things align with the Rockets, and I kind of scout guys way before they even thought of NBA prospects, from freshmen and all this stuff. Like I know kind of who you like, how the classes are going to look and all this. And I will say, Evan Mobley is an absolute unicorn and all this stuff, but also past history shows guys that has the ability and has, shooting touch, and he could be a defensive anchor, but he also got really great offensive ability. You can look at guys like Cat. Everybody was like, Cat is that guy, but Cat doesn't have the mentality. You can look at Andrew Wiggins. He's not a center, but Andrew Wiggins is a player that everybody thought was okay. He's going to be it because he has the athletic ability. He can shoot. He can score. And they thought that was it, but once again, he also missed the mental fortitude to be a star player. And I've watched Green since Green was a freshman in high school. Green has that attitude that I am the man, I will do it. And when you have a pick as high as 2 in a class like this, you can't pass up on a guy with that mentality, because it's very rare that you get guys with that mentality, with the shooting ability and the athletic ability to just say, hey, I'm the best man on the court, I'm going to do it. And then we saw shades of him doing that in the G League in a professional in a professional arena, compared to what you see from Evan Mobley in a more amateur setting where not as many guys are going to be pro. And he was the focal point of the offense, but of course he would be, because Evan Mobley is a unicorn. Once again, I like both, but past history shows that guys that lack that mental fortitude or attitude just don't work out. Even though they have good stats, they just aren't good winners.
Well, we talked about that mental fortitude earlier. We talked about that like it factor, right? And I think mental fortitude is a great way to phrase it. And that's going to be something that in these interviews that these teams are conducting, those are going to be ways that they kind of divulge and figure out, okay, is this the guy that we think he is, as far as his drive, his hunger, again, that X factor, whatever, that you can't even, that is hard to even quantify. And I think you look at Jalen Green, clearly has it. I think Jalen Suggs clearly has it.
Yeah,
I think Evan Mobley might not have it.
That, you go for, if you want that it factor, you just go for Suggs. Like that's the whole argument around him. Like if he didn't have that factor, he'd be like a mid-lottery pick to me. Like,
yeah,
that's what you expect from Suggs. I don't think you can make the argument that Mobley doesn't have it and Green has it just because Green talks more. Like we've heard more from Green than we have from Mobley. Like the dude being quiet doesn't mean the dude doesn't have the it factor to win. It doesn't need, like, it's we're more sure Green has it than we are. Mobley has it, but I don't think that matters like too much.
Again, I just think it's because the other two have been more outright vocal or demonstrative about it. I'm not saying that Mobley doesn't have it. It's just we don't know for certain yet, right? Like he could very well have it and just be a more quiet guy, right? Maybe he's Kawhi-esque. That's totally fine. Kawhi has that it factor, but he's also not like the emotional leader of the team. But he absolutely has that it factor when it comes down to the wire. You need a bucket, whatever. Like that's easily Kawhi. So maybe Mobley's got a bit more of that persona, personality about him. That's fine.
Yes, and I got one more point, then I'm gonna go ahead and hop off so my guy Dunn can hop on whenever he's ready. But we got an example of where Evan Mobley got outdogged by somebody that's physically not as gifted as him. If you remember the Gonzaga USC game, Drew Timme absolutely dominated him from tip to when the clock hits straight zeros. From that moment on, it's like, okay, that's a little weakness if you get dominated by Drew Timme. I'm not saying Drew Timme not a baller, because he's a baller, and the handlebars was on point the whole tournament, except for the final game of the season. But that's just a little example I'm gonna throw in.
Yo, Drew, I'm just going to throw it out there. Drew Timme is the love child of me and at Josh Strohs on Twitter. So like, go look at my profile picture and then go look at Josh and be like, yep, that's their love child. When we were watching him ball, for Gonzaga in the tournament, every time we watched him play, it was like looking in a weird mirror, like a funhouse mirror. It was weird.
Well, yeah, something I wanted to ask before we bring the knock in is like, imagine. Like something I was like, what is it? Is it Suggs Squad or whatever? Back when I was Suggs Squad, I used to bring up this point that I think not many people bring up is, to me, what's mostly wrong with KPJ is the fact that he isn't aggressive all the time. Like we heard James Harden talk about it when he was here. You got to be aggressive every night, try to get your bucket every night. And KPJ sometimes just feels like he's falling asleep, I wonder if a guy like Jalen Suggs could light a fire under him, Kyle Lowry style. It's just something I want to.
What's going on?
What's up, Don? Welcome up on stage. I think that's an excellent point to bring up. I think, do you look at KPJ? Does he have that killer instinct at the end of games? Right? Does KPJ have that it factor? I mean, there were plenty of times throughout the season, granted, small sample size, where he willingly did not put his imprint at the end of a game, where he willingly passed off the ball to other players. Right. What's up?
I think you should ask Drew Holiday about that and hear what he has to say.
Hey, that was an absurd game, right? That was a beautiful game.
He was
the youngest player ever
to
drop 50 points, 10 plus assists, but there have been way too many other moments, right, where he gets in his own head about stuff, gets down on things, right? Again, I said it earlier, bad turnover, bad shot selection, whatever, and shies away from the moment a little bit at the end of games. And he's 20 years old. I'm not trying to have a hang up on that, right? That's a maturity thing, and I think that's going to get better. If I was going to be cautiously optimistic about it, he's too much of a baller on the court for that not to get better. But I do think it's something of concern when you're looking at other guys who clearly have that mentality right now.
So for me,
you go.
Okay, so for me, the KPJ thing, right? It seemed like when he would back off a lot of the times is when his shot wasn't falling, and he really didn't know how to do things to take over the game if the shot wasn't falling. And so I don't know if it's not an aggression thing as much as it is he needs to find a way to be consistent if he can't get the shot to fall, attack the rim more or go to his passing more or get Christian Wood involved. I really thought when KPJ was in when he was in the G League bubble, he did a really good job at throwing the lobs, and they were cycling bigs in and out. Ray Spalding was down there, and Ray Spalding got pulled up, and they had other guys coming in and out, and he just seemed like he could come in with any big and just hit them with the lob pass or the pocket pass right away. And then when he came up to the Rockets, it seemed like him and Christian Wood really couldn't get on the same page until the very end of the year. And obviously Christian Wood was out for a period of time there as well, but just felt like he could never really get on that type of page. But that's my thing with KPJ. It doesn't seem like he definitely gets frustrated, but it seems like if his shot isn't falling, he'll get frustrated. And it's like he doesn't want to let people down. I don't think it's that he doesn't have the will to succeed as much.
I mean, I just like Jackson. I don't know if any of you guys remember, but I caught some flack for like during the G League bubble that KPJ like was never good in the clutch or whatever, and I like it never really mattered, but I do think it was noticeable. Like I do agree with you that he hasn't like outside with the Milwaukee game, which was an out of body experience. He really hasn't been good in the clutch, but also he's 20 and the maturity issues, like that's why you have vets in. That's why you have Kelly Olynyk, John Wall. I don't think you look at this pick and think, all right, who is going to help him the best? Who has the best intangibles? Who has the best leadership? Because I'm drafting a player, not
No,
Yeah,
no,
but
100%. I just to rehash really quick. I wasn't making the argument that you need to find somebody like with those intangibles to balance out KPJ. I was just simply stating that if we can certifiably like look at a guy like Green or Suggs and say, oh, they have that X factor already, right? That mentality, that edge, whatever it is, right? Whatever we want to quantify that as. If we can safely look at them, we're like, they definitely have it right now, but we can't look at KPJ and safely say that he has it because we haven't seen it on display consistently, then that's a fair criticism. That's all I'm saying. Is that even though he's 20, if we can look at these other 19 and 20-year-olds and safely say that they have it right now, then we should be able to safely look at KPJ and be like, well, what's going on there? Will it ever develop, right? That's a safe like criticism in.
yeah, and about the vets part, just before I have to get on now to talk about Jalen Green, but about the thing you said before. Wait, we got a Wolt notification. Let me just make sure
It's a story about Billups hiring.
Oh yeah, okay. So what I was saying, like, yeah, you can have Wall. Yeah, you can have like these vets. Like you have Wall, you have Olenek, you have some of these old. You have Augustine, but at the end of the day, who did KPJ go to the strip club with? You went with a younger guy. Like oftentimes, you having the vets doesn't mean that the player you're targeting to be more aggressive, that he will relate to them. You know, like I think it would. I'm not saying this as an argument to take Suggs because as I said, I've moved past that. But like, if someone presented me that argument, I'd say that Suggs would have Suggs or whoever with that age would have a better shot at connecting with KPJ and bringing that out of them.
I think Suggs would have more problems structurally getting his shot off in one of those types of situations. Obviously, in the tournament, he was able to get some crazy shots off, but he had that one that was like a deep runner, and then he had some other ones where, I mean, he was able to get some good shots, but obviously NBA length is a whole different monster. I think KPJ he's 6'6", if not taller. Jalen Green is about 6'6" as well. And I do think Jalen Green, he has the type of like, not even killer mentality. Like you can just see he's like born to shoot. Like he loves to get his shot off. I think he would have no problem stepping into those type of moments. I think the synergy between KPJ and Green could be good in the sense of, I think KPJ is a little bit more of a deferring type of guy. And I think Green is going to want to take those shots. Absolutely. And Suggs, I think he's going to want to take those type of shots. I think his wiggle off the dribble is a little less than what we see out of Green. And I think his 3-point shooting is pretty good, but what he would do over an NBA level contest, like I think that kind of remains to be seen. His finishing at the rim also on NBA length is a little lower than what you're going to get from Green. Obviously Green, just a crazy level athlete. And he showed finishing through contact very well in the G League this year. I think that was really the highlight for me was his finishing through contact more so than even what he did shooting wise. So
yeah, I think Suggs has clear limitations as a prospect that they do not have, that Mobley, just cause like, in terms of scoring, I mean, it's going to need to rely a lot on that jumper that was okay this year, but not much better than that, especially from 3-point line. He's gonna like his playmaking is it's very good in the open court, but in half court like it can get better. Like I mean, I think Suggs is really good, and I'd happily like trade for him. I mean, to me, if you can somehow get the second ping and Jalen Green and Jalen Suggs, then as long as you're not like trading KPJ or one of the next 2 years or the 22 or the 2023 first round picks, I feel like you gotta do it. Some of you guys have seen my trade proposals on Twitter. Like I'm willing to offer a lot to get one of those two guys next to Mobley. But yeah, Suggs definitely is interesting that as a prospect that he was able to, be the point guard of the best team in college basketball, basically until the finals. But I just don't think he's really at the level of Green and Mobley, just because Green and Mobley are guys who, if if they were in last year draft class, I think both go one, and I don't think there's too much discussion about that. Whereas Suggs probably goes still 4 because the Warriors still think they want a center, and LaMelo is better, and Edwards, yeah.
And I had LaMelo over Green last year going in as well. I thought LaMelo's passing was really transcendent, and I think if you have like that one really transcendent skill, I think that's going to let you get going in the NBA quicker. Obviously, like, you can shore up the other parts of your games after the fact, but like for example, like Mobley, right? Mobley's shot blocking and rim protection is going to come in and translate right away, right? You're not going to make him 7 feet tall. That's just going to come right in. And same with Green, right? Green's going to come in. He's going to have that Levine level athleticism. He's going to have the shot that we saw last year in pro sets and pro concepts. And then he's going to have the first step, which I did a bunch of I did some clips on my timeline earlier today about Green's first step kind of off the catch and off the dribble. And it looks really good. So those are things I think will translate for those guys right away.
Don, I need you to talk me back into Jalen Green over Mobley right now. What would you say?
I've been watching Mobley film for the last 2 days. To be honest,
one of us.
Not that I've converted, but I think I saw a lot of things on that film. Right, I think the passing. He did a lot of mid-post passing, and he did some creation from the top. He didn't do a lot of like drive and kick type of stuff. Like I saw someone the other day. This is one person, right? But he said, Mobley can fill that Jokic role for us, and I think that is taking a lot of leash there. Like I don't think that's the type of passer that he's going to play. He's going to be more of a stationary passer, maybe a little bit off the dribble, but I think the passing is good. I don't know how quickly his passing is going to, like we said, that's not going to be one of the easier translatable skills. He'll be able to make kind of the easy reads and the routine passes. The windows are going to be smaller in the NBA. Defenders have more length. I think we can't expect that to be at an all NBA level coming in, right? And then with his shooting as well, I watched all of his shots, every shot that he took last season, and he mostly shoots mid-range pull-ups and mid-range spot-ups. Like from 3, his best type of shot was like a pick and pop. And he had some regular spot ups that he took, but off the dribble threes, I really didn't think that was where his game is shooting wise. And he also had a really good hook shot game. He was very good around the rim. I think he had excellent touch. Sometimes he would take very not off balance, but like he would take odd angle floaters. Like he would be spinning right to left and then take that floater with the incorrect hand that he should be taking with. There's just some small things like that I think can be cleaned up. But I think my thing with Mobley versus Green is that Mobley probably has a higher floor. And like I said, Mobley has a lot of skills that are going to translate. And defense, I'm not going to say defense is not important, but if for a big, defense is a lot more important than for a wing, right? Like you want your big to be able to handle everything at the rim, to be able to have everything funneled to him. And I think that's why these two prospects are so comparable for me, because the things that Mobley is good at are the things that I really do value in the wing, like or in a center. Sorry, good shot blocking, good rolling. Well, in a wing, right? Yeah, in a wing, Jalen Green has some level of playmaking. He has some level of He has a very good level of pull up shooting. He has a decent level of spot up shooting. I was posting about that yesterday too. Like he has a tendency when he catches, sometimes he'll hold like you can tell he's used to being the guy that has the ball in his hands all the time and really working out triple threat a lot. And so he'll catch the ball and he'll instinctively kind of go into triple threat instead of either looking to just catch and go or catch and go straight up into the shot. I
We
think
should
that's
call
something
that
that
move
can
the
be.
James Harden.
Yeah,
We should
I
call
think
that move the James. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's fair.
I
But
saw that clip. It immediately reminds me of it. Yeah.
yeah,
Keep going.
yeah. So there's some kinks in his game that have to be worked out as well. But I think that people have said, Mobley is like obviously a unicorn type of prospect, but for me personally, the way I view team building, one, if we were to get the number 1 overall pick next year, I think Chet Holmgren is a very comparable prospect to Evan Mobley. I actually like Mobley's athleticism, and a little bit better. I think Holmgren probably a little bit better of a shooter, but I think if you get that elite guard, right? Let's say median outcome for Green is something along the lines of a Zach LaVine, right? Which Zach LaVine, obviously that's an all-star guy. I don't like to project anyone to be a Hall of Fame guy. So like I've seen people coming in, Kobe, MJ, we're going to slow down on that. We'll say Zach LaVine, right? Nice median outcome. Upper end median outcome probably. But if that's what you're going to get, that's going to allow you to take a center that's going to not say like in a more Capella mold, but I think if you get 75 to 80% of what you get from Mobley in a center, and you have a guard rotation that's something like KPJ, Jalen Green, and Christian Wood, because Christian Wood is a forward, right? Because now we're going to get a center in there and he's going to be a forward. That's giving you a watered down version of what the Nets are trying to do. Obviously, they have Hall of Fame level guys, but that's just kind of what the formula is. I know Jackson talked about earlier. It's hard to have 2 guys that are negative defenders. I think, or 2 guys that are negative defenders without having forwards that are really plus defenders. But I think those are the 2 formulas we've seen right now. Is the Hawks have Collins and Capella. They're really covering for the defense because Trey and Herter are not great defenders. And Herter probably gets a little less recognition in that department than he should. But Trey, not a great defender for sure. And then the Nets, Harden and Kyrie, they're guys that are known for they can kind of turn it on when they need to. And I think that's the kind of setup that we could see out of KPJ and Green is they're guys, they have good length, they have good athleticism. Everything I saw from Jalen Green on ball defense, like his processing is a little slow, but he absolutely has the lateral mobility to be a good defender. I think off the ball, he needs to work on that. And some of that is, again, processing and just getting reps. And I think going to the G League probably gave him a little bit of a jump start from that angle. But that's just kind of how I see those 2 from a team building perspective.
So
Yeah,
what you're saying is from Jackson's perspective, where you can only have you shouldn't have 2 non-plus defenders. Here's the twist: if we take Green, and he's not a plus defender, you'll turn it on when he needs to, and KPJ is the same. All of a sudden, you can't really have Christian Wood because he won't be a plus defender, most likely. He got better at it, but it's not like you're going to rely on Christian Wood to make up for other people's mistakes, So maybe everyone talks about taking Mobley maybe involves trading Wood. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe taking Green involves trading Wood because you need to compensate for that.
Or maybe you trade Wood regardless.
Yeah, no, that's the
I
mood
mean,
I'm on.
that seems to be the direction this is going. Yeah, I just want to say that
I may be higher on Wood's
regarding
defensive upside than y'all are because, like, when Wood was in there and before he had the issues with his ankle, he was anchoring a top 3, top 2 defense for a stretch there. So, he's not the second coming of, we'll say, even Miles Turner, right? But I think Christian Wood is enough of a plus defender that if you got a guy at small forward and a guy at either center or power forward, I think Olynyk wouldn't necessarily fit into this type of model if you got Green. You're going to have to bring in someone that is a more plus defender. But if you have those 2 guys, I think Christian Wood is enough of a plus defender that would still work. Because, the Nets are rolling out Blake, right? And Blake not a crazy good defender. He's another guy that's like, I can turn it on when I need to. So
I'm just going to throw it out there. I think the Nets
I mean,
are a horrendous comp for any of this because they have
I
3
agree.
future first ballot Hall of
that
Famers.
is fair. That is
You
fair.
can't use
Yeah, I
them
mean,
as
the
a comp.
Nets,
Like, it's so bad. I'm like,
the Nets have like the two best players in basketball, and they have Kyrie Irving, who was like the top five playoff scorer. Like, I don't think we
I
should
mean,
use them out
that's
for
what you're
comparison.
hoping. That's the type of offensive production you're going to want to try to get out of a KPJ Green backcourt. Like
I don't think we
if
should expect
that's
it though. Like those
that
are
would be the model,
historically
though,
top
right?
10 of all time players, and like
if KPJ's ceiling is Kyrie Irving esque or Harden esque, then I'm taking Mobley. Like, just let me get that player. Like, that's the whole point for
yeah,
me. Is if you buy into KPJ's ceiling being truly that high, you already have your dynamic, incredible guard who has displayed incredible court vision and ability to create, steer the offense, give him the keys to the offense, let him run the show, get him his defensive anchor, right? But I don't think we don't have a large enough sample size. We don't know if he's going to be that guy. I think his floor, at the very worst, is like a Jordan Clarkson-esque sixth man. Where
Wait, is this for KPJ or Green?
For KPJ.
Okay.
I'm talking KPJ. And the reason we're talking KPJ, right, is because, again, we're trying. If you reasonably are looking at the Rockets' core moving forward, I think it's perfectly acceptable to try and figure out which guy makes more sense with this current core moving forward. Like, when you're trying to draft the next guy who's going to be a building block of reasonably the next team, the next iteration of this Rockets team that's making a push for the playoffs or for title contention, then you can look at the rest of the young guys that fit the timeline and say, okay, well, how do these guys fit together? And for KPJ, if you view his ceiling as that potential, like that high, James Harden, Kyrie Irving-esque or whatever, then I think you make the Mobley decision and you pull him in.
I think the Hawks are probably a better example of it, right? Like
that's the comp I've been making consistently. So
yeah. So I mean, what is your view on Christian Wood defensively versus John Collins, like at this stage of the game right now?
I'd rather have Collins, to be honest. Like,
on defense, I agree, but I don't think it's a large gap.
I think you said what you said about players turning it up. I think Christian Wood on defense is, when he's good, it's also because he's turning it up and he's making it the focus of him. Like on his net, when he's playing naturally, like when he's not trying to pay attention to that specifically, he it felt like that stretch when he was good was him trying extra hard to be good, not something sustainable, at least in my eyes. And I think we need to sometime make another one of these about Christian Wood trades, or if we should trade Christian Wood, because I have so much to talk about in relation to that, but it's kind of off topic right now. So
you have the two most pro Wood Rocket fans on Twitter on the same locker room, the same green room, the same green room. It was bound to happen. Yeah, I think Kate brought up a great point in the comments that, well, if you have Mobley, just like when you have Gobert, and you don't really have to worry about defense until you should have good perimeter defenders, and we've seen against the Clippers how the Jazz, because they didn't have anyone who can stay in front of the Clippers, then it ended up killing them. But when you have a generational defensive prospect like Evan Mobley, you can just go and, all right, we're going to get this shooter. We're going to draft Corey Kispert with our 23rd pick. We're going to maybe throw a large amount of money at Duncan Robinson, because we know, all right, the defense has to be good, but there is Evan Mobley there to clean up so many mistakes that it can just let you focus on the other aspect of team building while keeping the defense respectable.
I mean, I think that's a solid point, and again, that's why I'm not totally against drafting Mobley in the first place. I don't necessarily think you need someone with, if you have let's say we were to trade for Miles Turner, right? Miles Turner could give you that similar level of defense that an Evan Mobley is giving you. I think it's easier to fill in that just pure defensive role and miss out on some of the offensive tools that Mobley's going to give you if Green is going to pan out. If you think he's going to pan out at a level that's going to give you a Zach LaVine or higher ceiling, I think it's easier to fill in defensively than it is to fill in for a perimeter scorer and you don't have one.
But
Yeah,
Which is why
I would actually
you
argue it's the opposite personally, because I mean, maybe you draft, like, if you take Mobley and you draft Trey Man, like, how much worse is Trey Man than than Jalen Green? I mean, it's worse, but it's the same archetype. It's the same. Maybe it's not gonna be a 30 points per game on 62 shooting percentage, but he can, like, replicate some of that, and KPJ can replicate some of that, and maybe Bones can do some of that, or Jared Butler, or Josh Christopher or Cam Thomas. Like, I think Eric Gordon, I mean, not like the mold of Eric Gordon or CJ McCollum, for instance. Like, I think Green's skill set, because it's just pure scoring, then you get like one of this type of guys every draft class where they're great at scoring, and I don't know about anything else, but they're great at scoring. And I think there are a lot of players like that in the NBA. And Mobley is, because he's so good at so many different things from both ends of the floor, I think he's the guy that it's gonna be harder to replace.
yeah, I think I have to agree to the point. Like, it's like everyone says nowadays that, oh, you can just get, and I said this too, like 2 days ago, you can just get an MLE center, and he'll do 80% of what Mobley does. The thing is, if you get the same level of a scoring guard, and you can find these all over the draft every single year, you aren't going to get Jalen Green, but you could get like a Jordan Clarkson who's going to do like 80% of what Green. I think there's a lot more Jordan Clarksons than there is. I don't know. Give me an example of someone that does 80% of what Mobley does, because if he keeps that switchability, it's really hard to find.
Kelly Olynyk. I mean, Kelly Olynyk.
Bam, Miles Turner.
And Bam doesn't put.
I mean, can Miles Turner switch on defense?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit. I don't know about all of that. Can he? Like, I don't remember. I remember watching.
The fact that we're having a harder time. The fact that we're having a harder time figuring out a correct comp for Mobley should speak volumes for itself, right?
Exactly.
We all shouted out different names.
The comp for me is Bam. That's the comp for me is Bam. I think he's very similar player to Bam.
No, I don't mean the comp. I mean the 80% of Mobley.
Exactly. That's my point. Is trying to find a player who gives you 80% of what that's going to be. It's tough to find that, because it's tough to find all of those elements in one package, right? So I think that lends itself to the argument that it's harder to find.
If you're so versatile like Mobley is, then you're automatically going to be extremely good. And that's kind of, I think we stumbled upon this point, but just because Mobley is so good at so many different things, well, who's 80% of him? I don't know. I just know that Bam Adebayo and Anthony Davis are like the two guys in the league we could compare him to, and that they're both all-stars, and that I think Bam could be like really, really good if he wasn't in his own head as much, or if he was a 7-footer with a giant wingspan, that would also help. But just because Mobley is so versatile, then, well, 80% of him is still an all-star.
Yeah, and with like most people will tell you that most of the Rockets picks are late picks, and I think late in the drafts, like, you can find these microwave score, like, they're not going to be as good as Green, but these 80% of Green microwave scorers, you can find them everywhere. Like, off the top of my head, I'd be fine having Springer, Trey Mann, Jared Butler, Cooper, Josh Christopher. Like, most of these guys will probably be there at 23 or 24, and like, man, they're converting me, Don. You gotta help me, man.
Speaking of Don, if you want to drop something
I've
really
accepted
quick,
this.
I want to get a couple more people up here who are sitting in the waiting room. So
yeah, I'm out. Thanks for letting me up.
Don, you rock. Thanks for jumping up.
No problem.
All right, let's get who we got waiting in the wings. Erwin, get up here, Erwin.
Yes. What's up, Erwin?
Yo, what's up, guys? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah. So, what's up, guys? I'm a big Rockets fan, and I was just because I'm so happy we got the second pick and everything, but I was just thinking like when you compare like Mobley and Green, I feel like when you pick top two, it really, especially like one, but especially like with this draft class, I feel like you basically have like two ones. So with when you have like when you're looking at like a number one overall talent, I think like one thing that really matters a lot is like the ceiling and like how much of that ceiling you think is like achievable. Because like you don't want to start dreaming if that makes sense. Like you don't want to start giving guys like things they will never truly like be able to do. But with like Green, I get the idea that, we know he's going to get buckets, when he comes in, and we know when he matures his game and he gets older, he's going to be a really, really high level scorer at the NBA. I'm pretty confident. But like those other things that Itamar was mentioning, like his playmaking and like his defense, I feel like, especially like when I was watching him in the G League, I feel like he has like a pretty decent work ethic. So I feel like he could become maybe not like a major plus, but maybe a minor plus. But with Mobley, it's like I get that kind of feeling I got with LaMelo, where it's like he's big and he has a really, really great skills, and he has a lot of really, really great skills. And usually, when you have really tall people who are really smart and really skilled, it just works in basketball. So I think if a number, it depends on what you're looking for. Because I feel like at number two, if you just have to find spectacular and you just need that, maybe that could like swing you towards Green. But I think with Mobley, it's like if you don't want to be cute and you just want to make sure you get a great player, then you just go with him and you just rock with it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't have much to add to it.
Actually, likewise here. I think that was really concise and to the point, and hit on a lot of kind of what we've been hammering home throughout a lot of this. But because I said earlier on, I think that there's I think the Green contingent really wants their guy, like a guy that they know that they can pull for as the number one option, and that's not going to be Mobley. Like if they do take Mobley, I also worry that if the Rockets go Mobley, right, and maybe KPJ doesn't take like a step forward next year and doesn't continue to grow his game. Maybe he plateaus a little bit. I'm not trying to be unfair to KPJ. He's 20 years old. I think the world of him. I think he's I think his ceiling is incredibly high. But I worry that like if Mobley is like our de facto like best player next season, the Rockets fans, after like a year of like Mobley being the best player but not living up to necessarily the hype, at least right away as like a Jalen Green, I feel like Rockets fans are going to get very, very impatient with Evan Mobley very, very
Yeah.
quickly.
I get what you're saying. The only thing with that is you mentioned how like Mobley can't be a number one guy. When you say number one, are you talking like number one like best player, or are you just talking about like top like offensive number one? Because I feel like you don't have like I feel like especially with like the I mean, I guess you could say like LeBron was still like the number one when they won the chip, but like Kyrie was still like, probably their best scorer, but LeBron, was their overall best player. So I don't know if you have to be necessarily the number one scoring option to be a best player on an extremely, extremely good team. So I think it just matters of like how good you think Mobley's impact on the other stuff he does could affect like your overall roster.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think Ben Taylor made a great point about this, where like people think there's a first option, second option, and really all they talk about is offense, and you also have a first option, second option, third option on defense, and there's that on offense. So, for example, Mobley is someone who I think could be your first option defensively. He can be the best defender on a championship team, and he can be your second best offensive player on a championship team. Where, for example, Jalen Green is probably, I would say, two, the second best player on it offensively on a championship team, and like the third, fourth best defender. So I do think putting that into perspective, I do think it makes the choice a little bit more clear about who has the higher potential.
Yeah, and I think something that people aren't bringing up, or at least on here I haven't brought up yet. First off, since this point is going to be a little bit longer, I want to say something. We can't let KPJ's age turn into a Jason Tatum kind of thing. He's 21 already, okay? Let's not call it like I know the broadcast like Matt Bullard and Bill. keep saying he's 20 years old. He's 21, and he'll be 22 next year. Like, we can't keep calling him 18-year-old like Jason Tatum is. Like, I don't know if you guys know the meme, but on Reddit at least, Jason Tatum has been 18 years old for 4 years or something. About Mobley,
he's the new Juan Soto.
Yeah, from like something good that comes with Mobley too is he's going to take time to be truly effective. Like, he's going to since it's going to take time until he's NBA ready. Like, centers always take longer. It lets us be worse next year, even against the will of the front office, And I think that's really valuable because we have 2 years and we can't mess this up. And I'm always fighting with myself to believe what Stone is saying is GM talk. And I'm starting to believe that there's some pressure to not rush things, but to be at least half decent, And I think Mobley forces us to be really bad next year. And I think that's a good thing, like a bad that comes from good, And I think that's also really, to me at least, it affects my judgment towards Mobley, because I think we should be bad next year, and taking a center does do that right away, Like,
I think they're going to be bottom 10 next year, regardless of if they take Green or Mobley.
You think?
I'm predicting
healthy?
that now. Yeah, even completely healthy. I think they're going to be bottom 10 next year.
Yeah,
Easily.
I hope you're right.
They're not like I need Rockets fans to temper their expectations with some these illusions of grandeur that they're going to be competing for a play-in spot starting next season. No, this team is there's a lot of individual level talent on this team, absolutely, and we saw it on display, with the revolving door of different players as the season progressed. But we also haven't watched a bad team in Houston in a long time, and it's really easy for guys to walk in there like Kyrie Thomas, Armani Brooks, to light it up on a night because, look, there's nobody else to take those shots. Somebody's going to take those shots. And it's nice that we can see flashes from those guys, some of the defensive bursts from Kyrie Thomas, the consistent shooting from Armani Brooks. Those are good signs. And hopefully those are pieces that you can hold on to moving forward and potentially, get them more development and they pan out and they stick around as potential rotation guys down the line. But I don't think that you look at this team and think, yeah, if they didn't have any injuries, they were going to be in the playoff hunt. They might have, if things pan out a little bit differently with Oladipo and the John Wall situation, whatever, maybe they're potentially clawing for a play-in spot. Maybe I don't know. I mean, we saw a very short sample size of 6 games where they looked really, really good. And then Christian Wood got hurt. So it's hard to say, but I don't think this team is going to be anything more than a bottom 10 team next season, regardless of who they pick.
I agree that we're definitely gonna be bad, but I also think it might matter on how bad you really want us to be. Because going back to what Prod said, I agree that and especially Jackson, no matter what, we're gonna be bad. But I feel a backcourt of KPJ and a rookie Jalen Green is guaranteed to be kind of terrible in terms of box plus minus and in terms of just competing and winning basketball games. Because I like Jalen Green's talent. I think he's a really talented scorer, but I think a lot of his buckets might come at least, especially at the beginning of the year, at the expense of the team, which we might be okay with. And with Mobley, I just know he's going to impact the floor defensively, basically from day one. I feel so. Jalen Green, I could imagine him being a negative his part of his rookie year in terms of just his impact, but the eye test tells you especially with Edwards, his overall plus minus this year was probably terrible. But with the eye test, he's a talented scorer and everything. So I feel like Jalen Green might have a chance to have that effect, and when compounded with KPG, you have a better chance of being bad because they have to figure it out together, as opposed to if you just give him another lob threat and Mobley and another talented defender.
Yeah, Wood and Mobley have to figure that out too. And if our draft pick this year, since it's not Cade, it also strengthens the argument to trade Christian Wood, because if we all agree that we're bottom 10 next year, no matter what, possibly even worse if the rookie doesn't settle in or something, if we let the deadline pass and see Wood is still here, his value drops dramatically just because he's an expiring deal.
You're right.
Yeah,
I mean,
let's not
here's one other point to consider, and I hate having to consider this because again, you still need to take the best prospect available, best talent, whatever you think that is, whether that's Green, whether that's Mobley. But there's an ugly truth staring you in the face. If they take Jalen Green, where does the man get his minutes? Like, I'm sorry, what is happening with all the 1,700 guards that the Rockets have on the roster?
You just buy out everyone. That's what Twitter says. You just buy out everyone. Like,
yeah,
Wall's getting bought out.
Just give John Wall $90 million. Who cares? No, like it's unfortunate circumstances that you have to try and figure out what is going to happen with John Wall. What is going to happen with Eric Gordon? Right? What are those two guys going to look like? Because unfortunately, Eric Gordon is recovering from a groin injury. And if the Rockets want to potentially move him, I still think that they might be able to move him this offseason without needing to showcase him again and hopefully maybe be able to move him without giving up any assets. But if they can't move him this offseason, guess what? You have to showcase him a little bit so that other teams at the deadline will be interested in trading for him and you won't have to give up assets to do so. Same thing for John Wall. And unfortunately, those minutes are coming at the guard spot. So even if they went Jalen Green, you're talking about having guys like John Wall, Eric Gordon, Kevin Porter Jr., and Jalen Green. That's 4 guards sharing all those minutes at the 2 guard spots. Maybe you can get a little cutesy with it. Yeah, and Kyrie Thomas or Armani Brooks. I left those guys out purposely. And you've still got DJ Augustine over there rotting away on the bench. That's 7 guards. So I do think that and I made this assertion the other day, I think that if they go Jalen Green, it absolutely, accelerates the timeline on basically having to get rid of Eric Gordon and John Wall because you have to clear space for these young guys to get minutes. You have to. But if they go Evan Mobley, who again, you argue he might still be the better talent overall, Evan Mobley is just you plug him straight in. Christian Wood is the only big that's currently signed to the roster. Everybody else is a free agent. So you bring in Evan Mobley. He's got a clear spot at number 5, Christian Wood at number 4. And it's unfortunate because you've still got KPJ kind of sharing the reins with John Wall in the backcourt. And that's not an ideal starting backcourt, but at least then you're allowing John Wall to continue to rehabilitate his image and potentially, make another team out there, another team desperate enough to trade for him at the deadline or the following offseason.
I do think that you look at.
Okay, you go.
I think you just look at was the best pick. He was the best player available, and whoever you decide is the best prospect, you take him. Like even if you have to move 4 different guys for Jalen Green, if you think Jalen Green is the best prospect, then you take him. I just want to give Kyrie Thomas some love because now that I brought him up, just because that man was so good. The 5 games he was here, the team was in such a bad spot and he made them fun again. All right, now Paolo, your turn. I just want to bring that up.
Yeah, I wanted to ask something else. If you take Evan Mobley and you reach 23 or 24, and JT Thor is still there, who has worked with the team, and everyone seems to like him as a prospect, when you reach 24, do you just draft guards or wings, or do you still consider drafting a big since we only have 2 anyway?
I think it depends on the prospect, who's going to be the best prospect, and where are you going to pick. Like if it's at the absolute top, you probably still go with BPA, and if it's closer to the top 10, then maybe you do factor in fit somewhat. And the thing about Mobley is that he fits. He just fits. He's so scalable that he can play with anybody. And
I meant at 23 and 24. I meant if we draft, imagine we draft Mobley and you reach 23 and 24. Do you at that point you don't just go BPA? The difference isn't that, So would you?
Are you referring to the draft or free agency?
I'm thinking of the draft when you get to picks 23 and 24, which we own. If you draft Mobley at 2 and you reach those picks, do you? And JT Thor is there, and the Rockets have shown interest in him. Do you think they still take him?
I think you could easily go a one pick on JT Thor and then maybe one more pick where you take BPA out of like the other wing slash guards that are in that range that are projecting, right? Like if Trey Man's there still on the board, you go Trey Man and JT Thor, or like I don't know, Cam Thomas and JT Thor or something like that, right? Because
Man,
then
I
you
can't.
do
Yeah.
you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you should finish. You should finish. No, you should finish.
No, I mean that was basically just the end point. Is you've got two back-to-back picks there, and I don't think it's the end of the world. Again, with the illustration of the fact that the Rockets do have a plethora of guards that they've got to figure out. There's only so many developmental minutes there, anyways. And even if we're just ignore the veterans, right? Ignore John Wall, ignore Eric Gordon, and ignore DJ Augustine for a minute. Let's pretend that best case scenario they jettison John Wall and Eric Gordon. They open up all the minutes in the world. Then you could arguably have KPJ, Kyrie Thomas, Armani Brooks, and Trey Mann occupying all the guard minutes moving forward. And then you have a front court of Mobley, Wood, and JT Thor coming off the bench. And then you got Jae'Sean Tate and KJ Martin occupying most of the minutes, like at the 3-4 spots. Like that's
that really does sound right. Like I think 4 and man, that's like ideal, extremely ideal for the 23rd, 24th picks. But I was sure that I thought you were referring to our picks in the years of 2023 and 2024. So I was confused. Regarding those picks, no, it's fine. I do think that there isn't really going to be, I think, a good bid for those picks. Like you've got Nimish Quetta, maybe that he's a second round pick or something like that. But
my boy.
But yes, you did. I fully expected you to. But I do think like the JT Thor is like, I think he's a big wing. I don't think he's a big man because I mean his best skills is like shooting, dribbling. He has a bag. He can defend well. I don't think he's a big, and there aren't really bigs there. Regardless, I think the Rockets should take a guard and a wing at these spots just because of who's going to be available, like Trey Murphy and Jaden Springer, or when Jared Butler or Bones. Like there's going to be great option at the wing at the guard spot, and there's not really going to be bigs there. So I think that could be another argument to take Mobley if you do think that you want next year's team to have a good allocation of minutes to everyone and that players won't be fighting for the same minutes, for the same usage. I do think you regardless take the best prospect available too. But I just also think it happens to be Mobley.
I'm just throwing it out there very quickly. Just the idea that, and I don't even remember off the top of my head because I don't have the pick order in front of me, but if there's a team that has 2 second-round draft picks, I would highly consider like forfeiting one of those late firsts, like the 24th or 23rd, trading back into the second round, and I would take Quentin Grimes and Jeremiah Robinson Earl and like round out like a couple second rounders that way. Or like, I mean, or just trading down in general, right? Like you can have the targets whoever you want, but spread the love around even a little bit further. There's been conversation about what do you do with those picks? Do you trade up? I think that the prospects from like that, 6 through 25 range or whatever are so comparable that I don't think it makes sense to package 23, 24 to trade up. But the idea of taking one of those picks and trading down further into the second draft or second round is.
I'd say like I'm really underwhelmed this draft from like 8 or 9 through 17. I'm really underwhelmed there, and I'm really hyped about the guys that will go like 20 through 40.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of talent that goes 20 through 40 in this draft that won't get first round picks because I don't know. There's just so many of them.
I just don't think you would be able to. Like, I don't think you'll be able to drop. I feel like you'd be dropping too far down. Like, I feel like there would be like a bit of like a talent drop off because like there's so many guards and I think they're all gonna go around the same range. I think like if you want to get one, especially if you like pick up Mobley, you have to make sure you get at least one of those. So like especially like I like Bones especially because I think like if you're looking for like that kind of like guy that could be like that kind of like microwave scorer. And like you say, you don't pick up Green. I think Bones could possibly develop into that guy, especially over time. So I think you want to make sure that with 23 and 24, you're going to get like 2 pretty decent guys. And I don't know like how far you were expecting to drop, but I don't know if you could get a Grimes like a guy like Quentin Grimes if you like drop to like 38 or
Well,
something like that.
here,
But
hang on. Let me throw this out because he's here in the chat right now. Rylan, if you're still there, in fact, I want to pull Rylan up really quick.
While we do
yeah,
that, like
see you guys.
an easy partner to do that is like OKC, who has a
That's why I'm pulling. That's why I'm pulling Rylan up because
Yeah,
I'm
they have
looking at
34
OKC
and
right now.
36. Yeah, that's perfect.
Hi, Rylan. Would you trade up using 2 early second rounders to get the 23rd or 24th overall pick?
I think that's something that the Thunder are going to look at because they have too many picks. When they have 6 picks in this draft, and even as young as they are, and like how much available cap space and roster spots that they have, 6 of them though is unheard of pretty much. So I think that they would look to trade up.
So then there you go. And those are two early 30 spots where, I mean, maybe they trade up because they really want JT Thor at one of those spots. I don't know.
They have 16 and 18 too, so and also the name is just too perfect. I think they draft him at 16. But personally, I don't want to trade down because I think the third tier of players ends at like the 25th/26th pick. So and below that, I don't really love the second round draft in this class as much. So I would either be looking to trade up, like I don't know, maybe like there's a good chance someone who's legitimately good is going to fall. Maybe Josh Giddey falls, maybe Moses Moody falls, maybe I don't know someone who's legitimately good and like should be Jaden Johnson, who should be drafted at the top 10, and he falls like 5 spots, and he falls enough that you can trade up for him and you can get the steal of the draft. I think that's something I'm really interested in, just because also the Rockets, what we've seen is Raphael Stone has a great eye for talent. The entire front office, the way they found Jae'Sean Tate and Kenyon Martin Jr., I believe in them to be able to find those guys, those greedy guys who can be good role players, Kyrie Thomas or Money Brooks, but high tier potential, like high valued prospects are guys who you're not going to be able to get unless they move Torrent Prince Locker to the wrong place, or unless you have a high lottery pick. And if if the Rockets can actually use their picks to draft someone like that and bank on being able to sign an undrafted free agent, or maybe buy the pick, maybe Quentin Grimes falls and you can buy for cash considerations, then I think I'd be more interested in that. Just get like the best talent possible by trading up, and then there is enough depth maybe that you can count on the rest just find the other depth in other ways.
I don't think
worth pointing out really quick, just on the cash allotment
Yeah.
side. The Rockets used their full cash allotment for this year, but Beam a Thug confirmed on Twitter that they can agree to a draft night trade and then make the trade after the draft night, dipping into next year's cash allotment.
We did that last year too.
There we go. So just throwing that out there. So that is a possibility of like potentially, utilizing one or both of these picks for something and then buying, a late second rounder.
Yeah. I don't think what's his name? I don't think Grimes falls past 40. And I think even for Tillman, if you tell him, hey, we have 24, but we could have Grimes at 36 and one of these extra guys, because someone's got to fall. Like, I'm looking at Tankathon right now, and they got 30 prospects, and like, I doubt very much so many of them fall to all of these guys in the second round to jump up. And if I think there's a good 40 players that I'd say in most drafts would go first round. So trading into the second round would be like trading for 2 first round picks in a different draft, Like imagine you trade for 36 and 34 with the Thunder, like we said, and you use one on Grimes because he is the hometown hero. Like, there's a lot of guys there's so many guys that they won't all fit in the first round. Like,
I'm going to throw it out there too. I think just the PR buzz of bringing home a hometown hero, right? Legendary, Houston Cougar, fan favorite. Similarly to Armani Brooks, it's just it's like a PR move that I think Tillman would 100% like be behind. Where if they pitch it and they're like, yeah, we want to, we kind of want to trade back, or we have a shot to get Quentin, but we want to move around a little bit to do it. He would be like, oh hell yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, isn't he like really into college basketball as well? Like, didn't he like sponsor
Dude,
the college
his
stuff?
name is on the side of the arena.
Yeah,
It's called
yeah,
the
he's really
Fertitta
into
Center.
it. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think that's really likely. I think that also means that you wouldn't mind buying a second round pick, but I don't think you can buy a second round pick that high. Like we spent on the 50 something pick.
We spent $1 million on the 52nd pick, I think.
Oh yeah. Oh okay.
Because
Maybe
the other cash went to the other 4.6 from the cash allotment went to Detroit as part of the Wood deal.
Oh it was the for them to take a Ariza with more guaranteed money, right?
Yes, exactly. So that was the offset there. So they only paid $1 million for the KJ Martin pick, which pick number 52. So I mean, maybe you double that if you move up another 10 spots. I don't know what the.
No, I think the Warriors did it when they were contending, and I think like it was like $3 million got them into like 37 or something.
Oh, that was when they picked up Jordan. That was when they picked up Jordan Bell, right?
Yeah, like you can even if you have to send like a future second or something like that, or you send DJ Augustine or something, like someone who has little value but enough so the pick isn't as expensive. I don't know. I think if you could guarantee like that Kenton Grimes is coming home, I think Tillman forks up the money really is.
I mean, I'm going to say something which maybe not a lot of you will like, but I don't know how much of a fit Quentin Grimes would be for the Rockets because he's kind of like a money.
Sorry, I had to get him out of here. I wasn't hearing that. Nah, get back up here. Get back up here, Edamar. I'm fucking with you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Because so there's a money box, and I think Quentin is someone who, for example, if the Pelicans draft him to play with Zion, that's gonna be a great pick. If contender drafts him, that's gonna be a great pick. If the Thunder finally decide to get some shooting. The Rockets specifically, I don't know how much Quentin specifically makes sense, but I do think that a couple of second round prospects will do. And yeah, Quentin, I think is someone like there's a chance he slips, and if you can get him like for cash, I think you do it because he's an NBA player for sure with his shooting. Like I'm really confident about him.
And I know you said a lot of people aren't going to like this. I'm pushing back on this tremendously. He makes a ton of sense if they don't go Jalen Green, right? They have they have a gigantic hole at who's playing their two guard consistently. Grimes has, solid defensive principles, great shooting. You slot him in, not as like the starting two, but like having him in that rotation and potentially as somebody who might grow into, a solid caliber, player, starting NBA role player. That's exactly who you want, that archetype in that mold next to, again, we've highlighted the Atlanta Hawks, right, a few times tonight as that potential mold if they go with Mobley. You have KPJ, you have Wood, you have Mobley. Then what do you need at that 2-3 spot? You need plus defenders and you need solid shooters. And Quentin Grimes is exactly that. So, that's, again,
maybe
he would need to
small,
project to that.
I think
what is he, 6'5"? I think he's 6'4" or 6'5", right? That's like serviceable.
Yeah, but you don't even care. You don't even care. You take him because he's from Houston, like that. That's the whole point. You take him because he has potential to be playable, and because he's from Houston.
And because he's from Houston, it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, it's basically like a pet, Like you can teach him a few tricks, but you basically like him because, like you. I don't think if the Rockets do that, like I don't think fit really matters because you're really doing it because hey, he has a shot at being an NBA player, and at the same time he was really important, one of the longest runs in Cougars history, right? So yeah, I think you don't even care about what position he plays, how tall he is. He can shoot, he can defend. That's all you ask for out of a guy you're mainly drafting because he's from hometown.
Oh yeah, if you're buying the pick, I thought we were talking about like if you traded like the one of the first four, like to trade down.
Again, I think either is a potential option, but there are only so many roster spots available, unfortunately. So it's just you get to a point where you're like, all right, can they reasonably trade down and have 4 picks that they're signing to contracts, or maybe they trade down and trade away for like a future second rounder or something with some protections on it. I don't know. There's a lot of flexibility there if they're not necessarily super duper sold on bringing in two guys at that 23-24 spot in this draft.
Are there any intriguing like drafting stash guys? I haven't gotten that deep into all the prospects yet.
There's is I I can't pronounce his last name, but I think I think he has really good potential as a 6'10" point forward. Who's like he's smart, he got defensive potential, he can shoot, and he's also a part of draft Twitter, which is so cool to see. So I think Vrenz is one guy, but I have to be honest, I haven't dug too deep into like second round or late second round of the draft, so I don't know how much I can answer that. But especially because I mean the Rockets don't have picks there, and so I mean I'm just going to let Stone wobble the Kings again, do his magic again, and get the next KJ Martin with the 50.
Yeah, another guy that most likely will fall out of the first round that was so hyped coming in is BJ Boston. In most mocks, he's not even first round. Imagine a guy that was that hyped out of high school falling into the second round. Like, it's actually crazy how much talent there is.
Dang, he's really gonna fall out the entire first round? Because I thought like Cal has like kind of a reputation for kind of doing this, if that makes sense with like his prospects. So I thought like the league would have like caught on. I don't know if you guys like he's really projected to slip out the.
I've seen it like at least 3 times in 3 mocks that he's not there. Make it there, someone's gotta fall. Like, because some of these NBA, like what you call NBA ready guys that you project to go to contenders, maybe they're the ones that fall. And in that case, if the Duartes and the I don't know, the shooters that are in every draft, if those are the ones who fall, I wouldn't make the trade. But if someone like are these young guards or shooting guards that are a lot of them here, if one of those guys falls, enough for you to trade down and do the Grimes thing.
All right. Well, I think Idamar mentioned earlier that he needs to kind of wrap things up here shortly, as we are 3 minutes away from 9 o'clock. We went 2 hours strong. We were tentatively planning on just going for about an hour, I think, originally. So I just want to, Idamar, if you got anything else you want to say, or Prod, before we shut things down, or Erwin, I guess, while you're still up here with us.
Yes, I just want to say that this debate, it's been really fun, like the past 2 hours, to talk basketball with y'all. And we're taking Evan Mobley because our scouting team is NBA Twitter, and NBA Twitter is taking Evan Mobley. So this is really fun to debate and all of that. But at the end of the day, like I'd be shocked. I'd be completely shocked if Evan Mobley isn't the Houston Rockets next year.
Are we doing the goodbyes thing? So I have a thing I have to say before we go out that I promised.
I think we're kind of wrapping it up right now. So yeah.
All right. You, anyone that's listening to this, you guys gotta. I won't promote my socials because I don't really care about followers, but you gotta go on Reddit on r/Rockets, and you gotta start discussing some stuff with us there. Like, there's a lot of really like smart people there that are going to answer to literally every thread, and are going to spark some really interesting discussion. So if you liked what we did here right now, you should probably check out the Rockets Reddit, r/Rockets, and a lot of the things I said here, I learned there. So yeah, should probably go there.
Absolutely endorsing r/Rockets. That place is great. Erwin, what you got before we wrap this up?
Thanks for having me, guys. You guys can probably catch me on the Reddit page too. And honestly, like either way, no matter who we pick, I'm just so happy we have the second pick because it could have been so much worse.
Yeah, I'm really happy that I don't have to sit here and try and handhold the entire fan base through losing the top 4 pick. That would have been total ass.
If you asked me before the draft, I would have traded our lottery odds for the 4th pick in the heartbeat. So yeah.
Same.
Yeah, I mean,
same. I would have taken it in a
all right, well, I'm gonna take a chance to soft plug my own stuff just because check out Locked On Rockets. It's a good podcast. This, I don't know how we're going to do this. I think Idamar has some plans to utilize this audio somewhere. I might reuse this audio somewhere. But Locked on Rockets is on YouTube now, and this is not a video. So we'll see how I figure out how to utilize this, whether I chop it up into little 30-minute segments or what. But this was a really awesome discussion. So go check out Locked on Rockets, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. Check out the brand new YouTube page. We broke like 565 subs or something, which is super awesome. So go subscribe if you haven't yet. Would really appreciate it. The goal is 1,000 by July 15th, which I think we're going to knock out of the park. I might have to like double that goal. But this was super awesome. Appreciate everybody stopping by, interacting, asking questions, participating in the chat. Follow all the voices that you heard up on the stage if they're still in the room, and you can track down their Twitter accounts, all that good stuff. But that is going to do it, I guess, for us. So yeah, appreciate it.